Georgia goes into Auburn. Spooky in October is the Plains. Somehow, some way found a way to win. Now, I know that you and I probably need to address this out of the top. Did Auburn get screwed in the loss versus Georgia?
I don't like talking about officiating decisions after a game unless it is on a specific play at the very end in a late situation or there are a litany of stacked mistakes that lead to an outcome. Blake, it was a very close call. It was a very, very close call. It happened at the end of the second half. You had opportunities with all of the momentum in your hands at home, and you still lost. That penalty does not save the poor pocket presence and the bad throws by Jackson Arnold. It doesn't save him underthrowing Cam Coleman time and time again. It doesn't do any of that. So I understand why we can have the conversation, but Auburn fans, you should be more pissed about the Oklahoma game. That was one play that I don't think defined the outcome. It's an excuse. Mm-hmm. It's an excuse if you're leaning on that.
You had the entire second half, to your point, to do something. And listen, you didn't have to have the penalties that you had when they had to go 90-plus yards for a score. You're coming out of a bye week, and I thought you looked like a team that desperately had everything on the line and everything to lose. You ran things in the beginning of the game, which ultimately got you a touchdown that Georgia just had not seen on film and they weren't ready for. And then you did absolutely nothing. And I know that you want to make the excuse that, well, it should have been a touchdown. Well, you had 15 yards in the second half. Let me repeat what I just said. Joe, they had 15 yards in the second half. 15. So don't come in here and tell me that you deserve to win when that happens. Secondly, if you're Jackson Arnold at the goal line, don't fumble the football. I mean, things are a game. This game is a game of inches. And when you can't determine what happened, don't fumble the football. Like, regardless if you score or not, you got to know. But, Joe, I do think that this Georgia team is an interesting one to look at. They finally kind of got after the passer. We know Jackson Arnold holds on to the football way too long. They have gone in two very hostile environments and won games. They offensively have got to be better, though, because some of the clunky stuff that they've done over the last 2 weeks is just not going to work. And I think defensively, they're coming into their own. They're finding their own way. And I love the resiliency, whether it be at Tennessee or whether at Auburn, but I just feel like something's missing. You're unable to run the football against guys. And listen, this Auburn defense is legit. I don't care what anybody – this Auburn defense is very legit, and you did enough to win. But I thought ultimately it was Gunner Stockton and the plays that he made through the air and the long run for the touchdown and things that he did were, quite honestly, Joe, Gunner Stockton made some elite plays in the second half that was able to propel them to win. I think play calling has got to get cleaned up. And everybody, you're either on the Mike Bobo bandwagon or you're not. But, man, I mean, like – at what point do you not start trying to lean on them when they're on the field that much in the second half? I don't know. But
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you on the Stockton take, and I wrote that down. Then I thought Stockton is one of the most underappreciated quarterbacks in the sport because you look at the way that he plays. He had way too many passing attempts through no touchdowns. He still had a lot of important plays that helped set them up for the win. I agree with you. There is a disturbing lack of balance because they couldn't get the ground game going. You're not being deliberate with a running back room that had a lot of momentum. You took a step backward, Bobo, from what was working well, and you were playing a pretty solid front seven and not finding success. But
this Auburn defense is really good. I'm sorry.
Yeah, got to give credit.
Good.
Got to give credit there, but at the same time, they got to find a way to succeed on the ground. Otherwise, this offense is going to sputter. The one thing I want to be clear about, though, I do think the pass rush problems are still there.
Very much there.
One sack on Jackson Arnold on his 34 dropbacks. That is good for they had 9 pressures on those dropbacks, which is a 26% pressure rate. And that is 7% below what the FBS average is. Credit to Travis May, by the way, who had these numbers. And the other part about this is they only turned those pressures, only one of them into sacks, which is a 11% pressure to sack rate, when Arnold was one of the worst quarterbacks in college football of allowing pressures to turn into sacks. He was at 40+% this year. So they had a chance to take a guy who, whenever he saw a little bit of contact, would go down, and they allowed him to escape. They can't survive the way that they're doing this by not having sack production by defensive linemen and from their pass rushers. And if I remember correctly, the sack that they had was C.J. Allen.
Yeah, on a blitz. Yeah,
it was C.J. Allen. So that plays even more to this issue that you had to manufacture your one sack in this game. Blake, if they don't find this and they don't find it quick, they're going to lose another game. Plain and simple.
I agree. I mean, something just feels off offensively, and I don't think it's Gunner Stockton, to be honest with you.
No. He played great.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I know it's a style of football. And look, it's a rivalry game. It is what it is. A lot of people want to make a lot of this game into officiating. It's not on officiating. Auburn just is so bad offensively. All the things and all the talent that they have, to not go away from Jackson Arnold is a fireable offense to me. It's a fireable offense. He's not a good quarterback. I hate to say that, and Hugh Freeze is not a good play caller right now. And the reason he didn't want to come out and say that he was the ultimate play caller is because he didn't want the finger to be completely pointed at him. But brother, you're 3-3 right now. Maybe you shouldn't have been playing golf. I told you this was going to come back up. Joe, it's over. It's over. Because if you're Auburn, quite honestly, it's time to make a move. You fired head coaches, you fired Harsin, you fired Malzahn, whatever. I get it. Joe, you can't keep doing this. This program is too damn proud to look like the way that they look right now. I know that being the head coach at Auburn is not easy when your two biggest rivals is Georgia and Alabama. I get it. Joe, this is unacceptable. I don't know how else to say. You can't run the football. You can't throw the football. You have two massive weapons on the outside at receiver, and your quarterback can't get him the football. Why aren't you going to Deuce?
It would buy him time, dude. It would completely buy him time if Deuce went out there and he played.
Deuce throws the ball around.
Yeah. Makes no sense.